everybody to my channel. Today I'm doing my first live interview with my good friend John from California Expat.
Yep, great to be here.
Thanks, John. We did an interview a couple of weeks ago on his channel, and so he's returning the favor for me, so I appreciate it. Before we get started, a little housekeeping. Just if you find value in the video, make sure you hit the like, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We're really close to getting monetized. And hit that notification bell so that you get notified for any new videos that we upload. So apologize, they're doing some construction in the background here, so hopefully the microphone doesn't pick up too much and it drowns it out, but apologize for that in advance. So anyway, John is a fellow expat, moved here from the US, so I wanted to get his take on what his life has been like. How long have you actually been here in the Philippines?
So I started coming here about 5 years ago. Was here a few times in 2019, and then I've been here since January of 2020, so I just hit my 4-year anniversary.
Nice, congratulations. So kind of give us an idea of what life was like for you in the US, and
Sure.
what made you start even looking in the Philippines direction.
Sure. So in the US, I'd been running a digital marketing agency since 2008. So life there was in San Francisco when I last left. Right after the crash, yeah, it was a terrible time to start a business, but I was kind of too dumb to know that at the time. And life was just in San Francisco, just kind of work, and running a company over there. And actually, my original plan wasn't to move to the Philippines. It was to start up kind of a back office outsource, company here. And
To any country or to the Philippines?
to the Philippines.
Okay.
So my plan was that I was gonna basically just build a back office to do a lot of the work for the California company here in the Philippines, and that I would just kind of maybe come out here once a year and just meet with the team. But my plan was just to come here, set up everything legally, and then leave.
Right.
And from the first time I moved here, I just fell in love with it, and so my plan changed pretty quick.
So California, I love San Francisco, but it's really expensive.
Yeah, it is.
So-
It is. It was a very expensive place.
Was it stressful for you daily running a business, new business, living at one? I think it's actually the most expensive city in the country, right? Or it's up there.
I'm not sure. It's definitely up there. I mean, at the time, it was kind of ridiculous. I was just renting an apartment. It was about $5,600 a month just for a 2-bedroom apartment in San Francisco. And people kind of love San Francisco or hate it. For me, being in kind of the tech digital marketing side of it, it's a great place to be. And there's people from all around the world there, which was a lot of fun to connect with other people. But definitely life was very stressful there working. And, in the Philippines, it hasn't been stress-free because I run the business here as well. But definitely have been happy I made the move.
Very cool. And what was dating like there?
So dating, actually, when I was in California, actually for years before I actually moved over here, I mostly was dating people from Asia. So, people from China or Vietnam or Philippines.
Big Asian population in California.
Yes, yeah. San Francisco is a very Chinese-run place and a very multicultural place. And so I kind of got started with my Philippines dating experience while I was still in California. Mostly I was dating people that had moved from somewhere in Asia, maybe in the last 10 years. And so culturally, things were pretty similar for me in California. I would date, American women from time to time, but, I think I had just gotten a little bit tired of that, years before I actually moved to the Philippines. And of course, here it's been a great experience.
So your original plan was to just come visit the Philippines?
That's right.
But then you ended up staying?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
So basically what was happening in California is I would work with employees out of the California office during the day. Everybody would go home, and then I'd rest for a few hours, and at night I would outsource to people in India, Vietnam, Russia, Ukraine,
Because of the time
Philippines.
The 13-hour time difference from here to East Coast time.
Yes.
10 hours to California.
Yeah, so I was kind of day and night. And so I thought instead of outsourcing to people and having to be up at nighttime overseeing them, I would just pick one of those countries where I really loved working with the people and where the cost made sense, and I would just start up another branch where I could hire a manager and HR, project managers. And so that's what I did here. I started up what's called a one-person corporation in the Philippines where foreigners could own a business 100%. Not all types of businesses, but a lot of types of businesses. But instead of kind of starting it and then, just coming back periodically. I wound up moving here about 8 months after I first came here.
How long were you here the first time?
It was about 3 weeks. Yeah.
Same for me.
Yeah, so I came here 3 weeks. I went back to California for 8 weeks. Came back for about 3 weeks. Went back for about 8 weeks. And then a couple months later, I just moved here permanently.
And where did you go when you first came?
I was in Cebu City.
Okay, so you were always a Cebu guy.
I was, yeah. I've only been here in Davao City for, I guess, about 4 or 5 months now.
Right.
But before that, I was always living in Cebu City.
Yeah, I love Cebu. Love Cebu.
It's a great city.
So that's interesting, though. So now this is going to be very cool because I never dated Asian. I dated one Asian and Filipina back in the States, but from Miami, so my dating experience was mostly Latinas.
Right.
But here in the Philippines, the culture is heavily influenced by Latin culture, by Spanish culture, even the language. So learning Tagalog is easy for me because I knew Spanish. So was there a difference? Well, how was your dating here? Once you moved here, how did that? I know you were probably focused on your business first, but did you start dating right away?
I didn't. So when I first came over here, I had someone that I started dating. So most of my experience here has really just been in one long-term relationship that ended, and now I, have a girlfriend over here now. But most of my experience, I kind of did things how people tell you not to do it. I came over here.
Typical
and
stubborn American. That's what we do.
That's right. So
we do things the way we do it back home.
Yes. So I mean, most expats would say, don't come over here and start dating one person. Take your time, get to meet people, and really get to know somebody, over a long period of time. And so, of course, I didn't follow that, and found someone that I was with for a number of years. And so it's really just been more recently that I've dated, and now I'm in a relationship again.
And here in the Philippines, and I've only dated one Filipina here as well. But it's very different because they do what they call date to marry. They don't just, like in the U.S., it's nothing to go out on a million first dates or to casually date and you're not actually in a relationship. Here, no, if you go out on a date, and they like you, you're in a relationship. So it's really, really hard to be single here. But I've kind of said it's hard to be single, but it's also hard to be in a relationship because, like you just said, there are so many beautiful women here and there are so many good women that it's hard to pick one. But it's hard to be single because when you do meet them, you do start dating them. The traditional women here, or the traditional roles, like I talked about this in one of my other videos, they just don't have it in the U.S. anymore. So it's very easy for an American to get spoiled and to really fall for that first Filipina because she's spoiling him rotten from day one.
Absolutely. So it already feels night and day difference than what most of us have experienced. And also there's a not so subtle pressure once you're here to really commit. So what you mentioned about it's okay to go on a lot of first dates over here doesn't really work that way so much.
No.
You can do it, but you're definitely going to feel some pressure.
And they don't even like if you have dated a lot of women in the past.
Sure.
Because it's not unusual to meet a Filipina here who's only had one boyfriend or never had a boyfriend.
That's true.
So the interesting thing is one of the things you mentioned expats tell you not to do is if you get a Filipina here, you marry a Filipina, don't take her back to the States because she'll become Americanized and she'll change. So can you compare what it was like dating Filipinas or Asians in U.S. to what it was like here?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, I definitely think that the Filipinas I met in the U.S. were different on the whole than the Filipinas that I've met here. I think that in the U.S., they were still super sweet, and I remember having a first Filipino girlfriend in the U.S. and we went out on a movie date, and she was feeding me popcorn, and
still have that nurturing
just so sweet, and I almost didn't know what was happening. It was just so different. But I gotta say, after I got to know her a bit more, definitely wasn't the same experience as somebody might have dating a Filipina in the Philippines. But on the whole, I think, people that have been born and kind of raised and, lived in the Philippines for 8 years, they're just super good, kind, respectful people. And so definitely when I was in the U.S., I really, loved, meeting Filipinos, whether it was friends or relationship. And I think I did it in a way that worked well, still living in the U.S. to, have dated people that were coming from the Philippines and other countries.
And I think it also depends on how old they were when they went to the U.S. Because I've met Filipinos even, that went to the U.S. when they were 3 or 4 years old, and so they really have no attachment to the culture here. Or whereas if you meet a Filipina that's in her late 20s, early 30s, when she moved from here, she still retains a lot of that.
That's true, and I think it depends if if it was the grandparents that were from the Philippines or the parents. I do think that if parents had been, kind of born and raised and grew up in the Philippines and then went to the U.S. later in life, and then they're raising, their kids, they're still going to get some of that cultural impact, but definitely not the same as if they were born here.
Right. And I imagine the ones that you dated, they were probably working, had careers, had jobs.
Yeah.
Maybe even had kids, and so that was a big part of their focus. And here, it's not unusual for a Filipino to not be working or to have, maybe be in a job at a cashier. And that's what I meant about the traditional roles. It's not unusual, especially in a relationship with a Filipino, for her to not work. Her job and her first priority is the family. They're okay, and it's accepted here for her to stay home, and her job is to take care of her husband and her family, cook and clean, and all those things that kind of went away in the U.S. that we as Americans love.
Yeah, it's a bit of a time warp here. Yeah. So I think how it is here is probably how it was in the U.S., a little bit before we were born, so.
Yeah. So what has it been like, kind of paint a picture of what your experience has been like here. You've been here 4 years now, right?
4 years,
okay.
Yeah. So
what's life like now?
I love my life over here now. So, I think the rose-colored glasses are off. When I first came here, things were so amazingly different with everybody. I just couldn't believe how just kind and respectful and thoughtful everybody was. And to this day, I lived here 4 years, coming here 5 years. I can't ever remember hearing anybody in the streets like shouting at somebody or seeing somebody aggressive to like an employee at a restaurant or something. Not even one time, that I can remember that. So it still is a little bit like, an old Twilight Zone episode living here where, I just feel things are really wonderful here. However, there are dark sides to every country, including here. And so, I've also experienced my fair share of, challenges and struggles here, but...
You want to go into some of that, or...?
Well, I think some of that, here there's definitely... I think it's part of living in a developing, country, whereas people are understandably just trying to get ahead in life. And so I think if there's opportunities, ethics gets a little bit blurry. If it's an opportunity, that's good, even if it means... doing something wrong to somebody else, so you'll definitely see videos out there about just watching out for scammers or stuff like that, and that could happen in dating relationships, that could happen in business, that could happen with friends,
and it's sad because a lot of the women have gotten that reputation about being gold diggers or only wanting a foreigner for his money and being the ATM kind of thing, and I think that it definitely exists. But I think it takes away from the whole culture that, and I believe that most of the Filipinos here are really good women that just want a really good man.
I do too. And that's why mostly, if you look at my YouTube channel, I almost never talk about that just because I don't want to be unfair to the overwhelming majority of people that are wonderful and, would never do anything bad like that. However, once you live here long enough, you see that, there is a percentage here, like anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Where some of that kind of stuff happens. So for me, but like we talked about when you were interviewed on my channel, we both feel very safe here, and life is great here. But at first, I thought that nothing would ever go wrong, and that was just a little bit, naive as well. So
because it does feel like paradise at first,
It does.
When you first get here.
Yeah, and to this day, there's nowhere else I'd rather live. The last place I really would want to be is in a Western country these days. So I really love living in the Philippines.
Nice. Now you have what made you leave from Cebu and Davao, or are there any differences between those two cities?
Yeah. So I first went to Cebu just to start up our first office there, and so
why Cebu?
In part,
most people would want to be in Manila, Makati, where it's more industrial.
That's very true. So I had worked with people in Cebu before the person that helped me start the company, that I was in a relationship with for a while, lived there. Just kind of made sense. And Manila is a great opportunity as well. Cebu is also great. So I still have the office in Cebu City. The reason why I started the office here in Davao City is we're a business process outsourcing company, so people will come to us from different companies where they want to outsource work from our offices, and so it's really about just having access to more talent in different cities. So we also have a small office in Manila now as well, but most of the work's done in Cebu City. I think the Davao office is going to really grow a lot, and eventually we'll see Manila grow as well. So it just means if a client comes to us and they need for us to recruit people to work out of our offices, that we can recruit in multiple cities in the Philippines at one time, and just have more access to getting them who they need quicker.
Now, do you notice any cultural differences between Davao and Cebu? Because in the U.S., it's really different between Miami and San Francisco or New York or Chicago. I mean, you're like different worlds.
For sure.
And I don't. My experience, and I've traveled a few places, but I don't find it that different from city to city.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think that different. Like, for example, what you just said, but definitely still differences.
Yep.
So my first impressions of people in Cebu, that they were very friendly and extroverted, and they really are. You know, I find people there just very immediately open and kind and willing to talk to you. When I first came to Davao, I thought that maybe people weren't as friendly. But I really saw over time that it's not that people here aren't friendly. They are very friendly, warm, welcoming, but they're a little bit more conservative, a little bit more reserved, and so there's just slight differences like that. You know, I love living in both cities. I gotta say that, you know, maybe it's just because I've only been in Davao 4 or 5 months now, but I really am enjoying living here. So I find that things are just a little bit more well planned out here. You know, people kind of obey road rules and stuff like that more in Davao City. So I think, you know, in Cebu City, things just kind of happen a little bit more. It feels like everything's just, you know, they're kind of winging it with a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah?
Whereas Davao City feels like things are planned out a lot more.
And I spent 2 weeks in Cebu, and I absolutely loved it. I've spent, the Filipina I was dating lived here for a year, so I got to spend a lot of time here in Davao, and I've been here for a month now. But for me, it's Cebu. Now, Davao is rated the #1 safest city in all of the Philippines. It is very clean, very safe, you know, little crime, things like that, but it is very slow. So it's a great place to raise a family. Not so great for maybe a single guy.
Sure,
Cebu has
yeah.
a much better nightlife, a lot more to do, but maybe that kind of feeds into that, what you were saying about winging it kind of thing, because they're not raising families a whole lot. Although I did meet a lot of expats that had families there.
Yeah, so Cebu City, you know, if you're the kind of guy that wants to go out and party, move to Cebu City. Don't move to Davao. You know, I mean, there's fun places to go out here, but they're just much fewer and further between. And, you know, alcohol stops being served at 1 a.m. here, different things like that. So
Some places, because we're at Fridays. Fridays closes at 9 o'clock.
well, that's true.
You know, which is unusual, and that's even on you can probably stretch it to 10 o'clock on a weekend. But yeah, you're right, at 1 o'clock outside, and they will actually, they close it down. We were at a place the other night, and they literally close the curtains, and you have to go.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean,
And that's a Davao rule, by the way.
That's right. So, you know, that's part of what I mean by being more conservative.
They have
here
24-hour
as well.
clubs in Cebu and Manila, places like that.
For sure. So, me, I'm a boring guy. You know, I'm working, you know, here day to day, so I'm not out, you know, partying too often. So Davao works perfectly fine for me. But, you know, a lot of guys that come over here, they're not having to work, you know, running a business or working a regular job like I do over here. So, you know, I think for a lot of those guys, Cebu City makes more sense.
Sure. So, do you have any more advice for somebody planning to come to the Philippines, or maybe wants to move here, retire here?
Sure. Yeah, I would.
What would you say?
I would definitely just say, come. You know, if you're thinking about it, stop thinking about it. Just do it. You know, even if it's coming, you know, over here for a couple weeks. I would definitely say don't plan in advance. You know, that you're going to stay over here for the long term. I came over here 3 times. just really getting to know it, staying at different places every time I came. And I would recommend that as well. So, try to not just stay in one place the whole time. If you come to Davao City, initially, for example, hop over to Manila or Cebu or Iloilo or somewhere else like that as well. Think about, are you a city guy or a island person? There's definitely a lot of variety over here in the Philippines as well. And just take your time. Be patient. Us foreigners probably aren't that good at patience, but we probably get ourselves into the most trouble because we're not patient. So I would just say, come over here as long as you can and check out different places, get to know people, and see what you think.
And that's great advice. And what I would do is what I did too. You do a lot of research before you go, because like John said, there's over 7,600 islands here, and it is world famous for its beaches, its snorkeling, its diving, its waterfalls, its nightlife. So every city is very different and offers a unique thing. I was in Puerto Galera for 2 weeks, which is world famous for its scuba diving and snorkeling.
Sure.
I'm not a water guy. I'm not into fishing and snorkeling and scuba diving. It was beautiful. It was nice to visit. I couldn't live there.
Right.
So make sure that you do the research on the cities that you want to visit and align it with your interests. Like John said, if you're a party guy, you want to come, have a good nightlife, go to Cebu or Manila, Makati.
Yeah.
They have, very districts streets where you can actually go, and it's just rows of bars and parties, things like that. And then there's other cities in the provinces that are very slow. If you want to just relax, you could literally stay. I went to Bohol, which is an island, and you could literally spend just your days looking at the ocean or going out on a boat or just relaxing at the beach, and do nothing. So check out your own interests and what you like to do and align that with the cities, because there is something for everybody here.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Any last words? Any parting advice?
Yeah, I would just say, guys, you're probably watching a video like Rick's channel because you're interested in the Philippines. Life is short. Most guys that come over here, their only regret is that they didn't come earlier. So, do what you got to do to come over here, and I think you'll enjoy it.
And the cost of living. Everybody talks about the cost of living. It's really, really inexpensive here. But it can get away with you for that, because alcohol, food, groceries, things are so cheap here. But if you're out drinking every night, every day, the expenses can get up. So, but it's definitely much cheaper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, thank you, John. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So again, I'll put a link to his channel, California Expat, on YouTube. I'll put a link down, and I'll put a banner up here somewhere. Go check out his video or his channel. He's been doing this a bit longer than I have. He's got some great topics. He covers the gamut, though. He talks about relationships and business things and things to do and not to do. He's been here a lot longer than I have, so he's got a lot more experience. And so I'll call him sometimes if I have questions about things to do or not to do here in the Philippines. But again, thanks, John. I appreciate it, buddy.
My pleasure.
All right. Thanks. Peace. Don't forget, if you found value in this, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share it. Please leave a comment too. I do read every comment. I try to respond to all the positive comments, but I do appreciate feedback, anything that you have to say, or if you have topics for future videos. So take care. Bye.